When I opened my eyes again, I was in the familiar embrace of my dad. Not dying. Not being torn apart by rotting hands and snapping teeth. Just held. Safe. Which was ironic, really, considering this was the man who'd kidnapped me when I was 7 years old. "Zara," he whispered, his voice cracking like broken glass. "My precious child, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for destroying your life with my own hands." I should have screamed, should have run, should have called the police, and finally ended this twisted chapter of my life. Instead, I started laughing. Not a happy laugh. Oh no. This was the kind of laughter that bubbles up when your brain finally gives up trying to make sense of reality and just says, "Fuck it, we're doing this." Because here's the thing. I remembered dying. I remembered every excruciating, horrifying second of it. Let me paint you a picture of what zombie teeth feel like when they pierce your skin. First, there's pressure. Not sharp, dull, blunt pressure as decaying jaws clamp down with surprising strength. The infected don't have the fine motor control for precision anymore, so they just bite hard. Their teeth, broken, yellowed, some missing entirely, punch through your flesh with wet, tearing sounds like someone ripping apart overcooked chicken. It's not clean like a knife wound. It's ragged, messy. You feel each tooth sink in at slightly different depths because their bite is uneven, desperate. Some teeth scrape bone, others catch on muscle fibers and tear them lengthwise. The pain doesn't come immediately. Shock sees to that, your brain's last mercy before it abandons you entirely. But then, then the agony floods in like molten metal through your veins. It's not just the wound. It's the infection already crawling into your bloodstream, the virus that turns prey into predator, that rewrites your DNA into something hungry and dead and wrong. I'd felt that pain in my shoulder first. The zombie that got me had been a middle-aged woman still wearing her grocery store uniform. Her name tag said Linda in cheerful letters, which somehow made it worse. Half her face was missing, literally missing, like someone took a melon baller to her cheek. It exposed teeth that had no lips to cover them anymore, turning her mouth into a perpetual death grimace. Her eyes were the worst part. Clouded white, like spoiled milk left in the sun, seeing nothing but sensing everything. Movement, heat, life. The virus hijacked her visual cortex but enhanced everything else. She tracked me by the sound of my breathing, the warmth of my blood, the electromagnetic signature of my terrified heartbeat. When she bit down, I heard my own flesh tear, felt the hot wetness of blood, mine, pour down my arm in pulsing gouts that matched my frantic heartbeat. Smelled the rot on her breath, a stench like roadkill left in summer sun for weeks, mixing decay and sweetness and wrongness into something that made my stomach heave, even as I screamed. But that first bite wasn't what killed me. No, that honor went to the horde that followed. A dozen infected, maybe more, their movements jerky and wrong like puppets with half their strings cut. They swarmed me in the street while my dear brother James drove away in our supply truck. The truck Dad and I had spent 6 weeks loading with everything we'd need to survive. His laughter echoed over the sounds of feeding, high and manic and delighted. I remember hands. So many hands grabbing me, pulling me down onto concrete that scraped my back raw. Fingers with missing nails, some with bone exposed where flesh had rotted away, all impossibly strong with virus-enhanced muscle response. The second bite took a chunk from my thigh. I saw it happen. watched a teenage boy with acne scars still visible on his gray face lean down and just bite. His teeth sank in, and when he pulled back, he took a piece of me with him. A piece the size of a tennis ball. Muscle and fat and skin all twisted together in his mouth as he chewed with mechanical efficiency. The third bite, the fourth, the 10th. At some point you stop counting. Stop feeling individual pains. It all blends into one overwhelming agony that whites out your entire existence. You're not a person anymore. You're just pain and terror and the knowledge that you're being eaten alive while fully conscious. The worst part? The virus doesn't grant you the mercy of shock-induced unconsciousness. Some fucked up evolutionary advantage keeps you awake, aware, experiencing every moment as your body is consumed. As you bleed out, as you feel your life literally being eaten away, bite by bite. I died screaming. Died knowing that James had betrayed us. Died with the taste of my own blood in my mouth and the sound of wet chewing in my ears. And through it all, echoing like a soundtrack to my death, I heard James laughing. So yeah, when I opened my eyes in Dad's arms 2 months before the apocalypse, safe in my little studio apartment with the IKEA furniture and the coffee maker and the completely intact flush, I laughed. Because the universe apparently had a sick sense of humor. Zara? Dad pulled back, searching my face with eyes that had seen things no parent should see. Are you okay? Do you remember? Remember? I wiped tears from my eyes. I couldn't tell if they were from laughter or something else. Dad, I just died. I was literally eaten alive by zombies while your biological son, my dear brother, stole our supplies and left us to die like we were trash. Before that, he spent 3 days. I stopped myself. Some memories were better left unspoken. At least for now. So no, I'm not okay. But I'm alive, which is more than I was 5 minutes ago, so I guess that's something. His face went white as printer paper. Actually white, not just pale, like every drop of blood had vacated his face in horror. You remember everything. Dear God, Zara, you remember every single second. I stood up, pulling away from him, my mind already racing through possibilities and timelines and strategies, including the fact that in this timeline, I shouldn't know you at all. I should be Zara Collins, data analyst at Morrison Tech, making $180,000 a year, living alone in this apartment, and absolutely not having memories of being raised by a professional kidnapper in multiple timelines. Multiple? How many times have you... This is my 3rd time around the death carousel. What number is this for you? 2nd. He looked like he might vomit. I've died once. Watched you die first. I was bound with rope, too weak from the cancer to break free, and I had to watch as James... His voice broke completely. As he destroyed you. Used you, and I couldn't do anything but watch and hate myself and know that everything terrible in your life was because I stole you. We stared at each other across my tiny apartment. 2 people who died traumatic deaths and been inexplicably given second chances we absolutely didn't deserve. Well, I said finally, walking to my kitchen, this is awkward. Coffee? He blinked. What? Coffee, you know, ground beans, hot water, the fuel of civilization. I pulled out my coffee maker. In 2 months, this simple machine would be a priceless relic. Because we need to talk, and I don't have serious conversations without caffeine. Zara, let me guess. You're sorry? You regret kidnapping me? You hate yourself for destroying my childhood? Heard it. Multiple timelines worth of heard it. And you know what? I believe you. You're genuinely, deeply sorry for being a kidnapping piece of shit. Gold star for self-awareness. I don't deserve your sarcasm. No, you deserve my rage, my hatred, my years of therapy that I'll never get now because therapists are about to become zombie food. The coffee maker girl to life. But here's the thing, Dad. And yes, I'm calling you Dad, because after 3 lifetimes, that's what you are to me, for better or worse. Rage is exhausting. I spent my second timeline being angry, tracked down my real family, the Collins clan, thinking they'd welcome me home with open arms. What happened? They told me I didn't fit in their lives anymore. They replaced me with Sarah. Perfect Sarah, who got my room, my inheritance, my parents' love. They looked at me, their actual daughter who'd been kidnapped at 7, and said, "We've moved on. Please don't contact us again." I handed him a cup and watched his face crumble. "I'm so sorry, Zara. They should have wanted me, loved me, fought for me." Yeah, they should have, but they didn't. And you know what? You did. You fought for me every day in your own fucked up way. You stole me, sure, but then you fed me, educated me, protected me from James, gave me skills that let me earn 6 figures by 25. You were a terrible person who somehow became a decent parent, and I have no idea what to do with that cognitive dissonance. You shouldn't forgive me. Good thing I'm not offering forgiveness. I sipped my coffee, relishing the taste. In 2 months, good coffee would be worth more than gold. I'm offering a partnership because I remember 2 apocalypses, and you remember 1, and neither of us wants to die that way again. No. His voice went hard, something I'd never heard from him before. In my first timeline, Dad had been soft, gentle, almost pathologically afraid of conflict. This version was different. No, I don't. And I won't. In my timeline, I was weak, sick with cancer. I couldn't protect you from James. I was bound and helpless, and I had to watch him. He stopped, jaw clenched so tight I could see muscles jumping. I watched him destroy you, use you, break you, and I couldn't do anything but witness your suffering and know it was my fault for bringing you into my life. Something shifted in his eyes then, something cold and hard and absolutely unforgiving. This time is different. I'm not sick, I'm not weak, and James will never touch you again. The way he said it, flat, emotionless, final, sent a chill down my spine. This wasn't the dad I remembered. This was someone who died once, watched his daughter die, and come back with nothing but cold determination and focused rage. I liked this version better. Okay, then. I set down my coffee cup. Let's make a plan to survive the apocalypse so well that we actually thrive. But first, tell me about your timeline. What happened after I died? His hands tightened around his cup. James left us both in the street. The infected were feeding on you, and I was tied up, helpless. He just drove away laughing, like our deaths were the funniest thing he ever seen. Sounds about right. The infected finished with you and came for me. I died with your blood on my hands, literally. I'd managed to drag myself to you, tried to... He stopped, breathing hard. Tried to close your eyes, give you some dignity. That's when they got me, teeth in my throat. I died looking at your face, thinking that my greatest sin wasn't kidnapping you, it was failing to protect you from the monster I created. You didn't create James. He chose to be a monster. I enabled him, ignored the signs, paid off his victims, made excuses. Dad's voice was rough with self-loathing. His mother, my wife, Sarah, she died when he was 10. Cancer, slow, and agonizing. I worked constantly to pay medical bills and left James to raise himself. By 15, he was already showing signs. Cruelty to animals, theft, violence toward girls at school. I should have gotten him help, should have been a father. Instead, I threw money at the problem, paid off parents who caught him hurting their pets, bribed school officials to ignore incidents, told myself he was just acting out from grief. His laugh was bitter and broken. By 20, he had a criminal record, assault, attempted rape. He walked because I hired expensive lawyers and intimidated witnesses. By 25, he was someone I didn't recognize, someone I was afraid of. But you never stopped him. No, I never stopped him because he was my son, and I kept thinking if I just gave him one more chance, one more opportunity, he'd change. Dad met my eyes, and I saw depths of guilt that would drown most people. I was wrong. James doesn't change. He just gets worse when no one stops him. And you paid the price for my cowardice. We sat in heavy silence, two people bound by trauma and death and complicated love. So what's the plan? He asked finally. You said you've died twice. You know what's coming. How do we survive? I pulled out my laptop. First, we try to warn people, not because I think they'll listen, they won't, but because we need to establish alibis and create chaos in the right places. How? I smiled, sharp and cold. We're going to frame James for the apocalypse. Dad watched over my shoulder as I pulled up James's Facebook account. How do you know his password? He asked. Because he's an idiot who uses the same password for everything, Sarah 1995. His mother's name and birth year. I typed it in, his mother's name and birth year. He's never changed it across 3 timelines. Some people never learn. That's remarkably stupid. James isn't smart. He's just violent and willing to do things normal people won't. I cracking my krunnels. But violence doesn't help when your sister is a data analyst who remembers the future. Time to destroy his life with information. I started typing a long, detailed post. Final warning, mark my words, May 15th, Harborville, Port. Cruise ship Corona del Mar docks with patient 0. They're calling it a mysterious illness, but I know the truth. It's a virus that turns people into mindless animals. Cannibals. The Walking Dead. The government knows. They're covering it up. By May 20th, it had spread to our city. By June 1st, it's nationwide, maybe worldwide. Stock up on supplies, get weapons, fortify your homes, trust no one. Your neighbors will turn into flesh-eating monsters. Your family will try to eat you alive. The dead will walk. I've seen the leaked documents. I know what's coming. They're going to let it spread to reduce the population. New World Order shit. Wake up, sheep. Arm yourselves. Prepare, survive. Don't say I didn't warn you. I attached screenshots of news articles about mysterious illnesses, maps with red circles around Harborville, and supply lists that would make preppers weep with joy. He sounds completely insane, Dad observed. He sounds like someone with insider information that he shouldn't have. I hit post. When this actually happens exactly as he predicted, authorities will think he's either a terrorist with foreknowledge, a doomsday cultist who got impossibly lucky, or someone involved in spreading the virus. Either way, he's fucked. Brilliant. Cruel. Exactly what he deserves. I created burner email accounts next, dozens of them, all using proxy servers and VPNs to hide my location. Then I started sending warnings to every government agency I could find. CDC, FBI, Homeland Security, local police departments, hospital administrations, news outlets. Urgent warning, viral outbreak will begin May 15th at Harborville Port. Patient 0 arrives on the cruise ship Corona del Mar. Symptoms initially mimic rabies, but progress rapidly. Victims become violent, aggressive, attack, and consume others. Spreads through bites and bodily fluids. Prepare for a nationwide pandemic. This is not a hoax. This is not a drill. You have 2 months. Will any of them believe you? Dad asked. God, no. They'll think I'm a conspiracy theorist or someone looking for attention. I sent another batch of emails, but there'll be a paper trail, evidence that someone tried to warn them. When it actually happens, they'll go back through records looking for clues. They'll find these emails, they'll find James's social media, and they'll start asking questions. Questions that end in James in a cell, or worse. I close my laptop with satisfaction. That's phase 1. Phase 2 is building a fortress impregnable that will survive in absolute comfort while the world burns. Dad leaned back, studying me with an expression I couldn't quite read. When did you get so cold? When I died screaming while your son laughed? When I spent my second life alone and desperate and died anyway? When I realized that mercy and kindness get you killed, but intelligence and ruthlessness keep you alive? I'm not cold, Dad. I'm realistic. And realism says we save ourselves first and feel guilty about it later if we have time. He nodded slowly. I spent my first timeline trying to be good, trying to make up for stealing from you by being a perfect parent. It didn't matter. We died anyway. So this time? This time, I don't try to be good. I try to keep you alive, whatever it takes, whoever has to suffer. I failed you once, never again. I felt something warm unfurl in my chest, something that might have been love or might have been relief that I wasn't alone in my ruthlessness. Dad? Yeah? Thanks for being a morally questionable kidnapper who actually gives a shit. It's weirdly refreshing. He laughed, actually laughed, surprising both of us. Thanks for being a sarcastic survivor who doesn't let death keep her down. It's terrifying and admirable in equal measure. We're a fucked up team. The best kind. Over the next week, we scouted locations. Dad knew every abandoned building in the city, a professional hazard from his kidnapping days. He'd needed places to hide people, which meant he knew which structures were solid, which had easy access, and which would draw attention. The warehouse in the industrial district, he showed me, a building that looked like urban decay made manifest. 3 stories, concrete reinforcement, minimal windows, full basement, built in 1972 when they actually made things to last. Abandoned since 2018. I pulled up property records on my laptop. Owner went bankrupt, the bank foreclosed. It's been sitting empty for 4 years. Perfect. No one's watching it, no one cares about it. It's exactly what we need. We visited it after dark, breaking in through a rusted side door. The interior was exactly as advertised. Vast open spaces, solid construction, evidence of minor water damage, but nothing structural. The basement was the real prize. 10,000 square feet of underground space with high ceilings and good drainage. This is where we put the livestock, Dad said, his voice echoing. Livestock? Like actual animals? Chickens, ducks, pigs, lambs. 2 dairy cows if we can fit them. He walked the space, measuring with his eyes. Renewable protein sources, fresh eggs every day, milk, meat when necessary. We soundproof this space, install proper ventilation, and we'll have fresh food indefinitely. I stopped, actually impressed. That's brilliant. And insane, but mostly brilliant. I spent 18 years making sure you had everything you needed. I'm not stopping now. We bought the building for $85,000 through a shell company Dad set up, Parker Properties, LLC. The real estate agent didn't ask questions, just grateful to finally move the property. Then the real work began. Week 1, the foundation. Dad's criminal connections proved invaluable. I need soundproofing, he told a contractor he'd used for his kidnapping safe houses. Military grade. The kind they use in black sites where screaming can't be heard. The contractor, a man named Victor, who asked no questions, raised an eyebrow. How much space? Entire basement, 10,000 square feet, and I need it done in 3 weeks. That's expensive. Dad dropped a briefcase full of cash on the table. $45,000. Half now, half on completion. And Victor, no paperwork, no permits, no records. Never are. Victor pocketed the money. What are you doing down there that needs this level of soundproofing? Do you really want to know? No, I don't. The soundproofing was excessive to the point of absurdity. Triple layers of mass-loaded vinyl, acoustic foam thick enough to absorb a jet engine, resilient channels that isolate sound completely, and another layer of specialized drywall. You could detonate a bomb down here, and nobody outside would hear it, Victor said proudly on completion day. Perfect. We tested it. I went upstairs while Dad yelled at full volume in the basement. Couldn't hear a thing, not even vibrations through the floor. Livestock won't be a problem, Dad confirmed. No noise, no smell, with proper ventilation. No evidence we're here. Ventilation came next. An industrial HVAC system with HEPA filtration, the kind hospitals use for infectious disease wards. Air intake vents are hidden on the roof disguised as defunct equipment. The system could completely recycle basement air, filter out airborne pathogens, and maintain perfect temperature and humidity. Animals need specific conditions, Dad explained as we tested airflow. Too hot, they die. Too cold, they die. Too humid, they get respiratory infections. This system keeps them comfortable, healthy, and productive. You really thought of everything. I had a lot of time to plan while dying. While watching you die. I promised myself if I got another chance, I'd build something that couldn't fail. Finding a farmer willing to sell his entire livestock operation wasn't hard. Finding one who wouldn't ask questions was harder. We drove 3 hours into the rural countryside and found exactly what we needed. A small family farm going out of business. The owner, a man in his 70s named Mr. Chen, looked exhausted and defeated. "Kids don't want the farm," he said sadly. "They moved to the city, got fancy jobs. I'm too old to run it alone. So I'm selling everything and moving into a retirement home." "I'll take it all," Dad said. "Animals, equipment, and feed stores. Everything." "All of it?" Mr. Chen looked suspicious. "What do you want with 40 animals?" "Urban farming project," I chimed in with my best earnest smile. "Experimental agriculture in abandoned industrial spaces. We're testing whether livestock can thrive in city environments as a sustainable food source." It was complete bullshit, but it sounded academic enough to be believable. "Huh." Mr. Chen considered this. "When do you want them?" 3 weeks. We're still setting up the facility." "I can do that. $30,000 for everything." Dad handed over cash without negotiating. "Deal. But I need delivery at night. The city has noise ordinances, and we can't be unloading livestock during the day." "Fine by me. Where am I delivering?" We gave him the warehouse address. 3 weeks later, at 2 a.m., trucks arrived. 20 chickens, 15 ducks, 4 pigs, 6 lambs, 2 dairy cows named Bessie and Daisy. We unloaded them into the soundproofed basement, which we'd converted into individual pens with proper drainage, automatic feeding systems, and temperature control. The animals settled in immediately, completely unaware they'd just become the most valuable livestock in the coming apocalypse. "This is surreal," I said, watching chickens peck at feed. "We're building a farm in a basement." "We're building survival." Dad filled the water troughs. "These animals will keep us fed for years. Decades, if we breed them properly." "You know how to breed livestock?" "I learned. Spent the last week reading every agricultural manual I could find. I told you, this time I'm prepared for everything." We'd stockpiled feed too. 20 tons of grain, hay, and supplemental nutrients. Stored in sealed containers to prevent spoilage and pest infestation. "How long will this last?" I asked. Dad did mental math. "If we manage it properly, 10 years. Maybe more if we supplement with food scraps and garden waste." "We're actually going to survive this." "We're going to thrive." While the basement became our hidden farm, the first floor became our fortress of supplies. We bought food by the truckload. Literally. A bankrupt restaurant supply company was liquidating everything. Dad paid $60,000 cash for their entire inventory. 50 pallets of canned goods arrived at midnight. Vegetables, fruits, beans, soup, tomatoes, everything a commercial kitchen would need times 10. Dried pasta in 50-pound bags, rice in massive drums, flour, sugar, and salt in quantities meant for industrial baking, oil in 55-gallon barrels. "This is enough food for an army," I said, overwhelmed by the sheer volume. This is enough food for us to never worry about starving. Dad started organizing pallets. We're going to eat well during the apocalypse, Zara. Not just survive, actually enjoy food. I created a database to track everything. Item type, quantity, expiration date, nutritional value, storage location, color-coded shelves, clear labeling, and rotation systems to use the oldest items first. My data analyst brain wouldn't let me do it any other way. You're terrifyingly organized, Dad observed, watching me label the 247th can of tomatoes. I died twice from poor planning. This time, we planned perfectly. MREs came next. Dad's military contact, a supply sergeant he'd bribed years ago for a kidnapping job, sold us 5,000 units under the table. These fell off a truck, I asked sarcastically. These were never on a truck to begin with, the sergeant winked. Government surplus that doesn't exist on any manifest. $50,000, and they're yours. We loaded them into the warehouse at 3 a.m., stacking boxes ceiling high. 5,000 meals at 1,200 calories each, I calculated. That's 6 million calories. If we eat 2,000 calories a day, that's over 8 years of backup food just from MREs. Plus the canned goods, rice, pasta, livestock products, we could last 20 years in here without resupply. Then came the luxury items, because I'd be damned if I survived the apocalypse eating bland rations. Coffee beans, 100 pounds of premium Arabica vacuum-sealed in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers. This is essential, I declared when Dad questioned the expense. Chocolate, 50 pounds of dark chocolate bars in climate-controlled storage, also essential. Spices, every variety imaginable in bulk quantities. Cumin, paprika, oregano, basil, curry powder, vanilla, cardamom. If we're eating rice and beans for years, they're going to taste good. And alcohol. Wine, whiskey, vodka, rum. For medicinal purposes and sanity. We're building paradise, I said, surveying our stocked fortress. We're building what we deserve after dying traumatic deaths. Comfort, security, peace. The third floor became our intelligence center, and I threw myself into it with obsessive focus. 24 cameras cover every approach to the building. Hidden units disguised as debris, broken pipes, even fake graffiti. Military-grade night vision, motion sensors, facial recognition software running on local servers. All feeds are wired to our control room with redundant recording systems and battery backups. But 4 cameras had special purposes. James's apartment, I said, positioning a telephoto lens with sniper-like precision. I want to see everything. We had perfect views. His building entrance, his apartment window, the parking lot, and the street where he walked to score drugs. Why waste resources on him? Dad asked, but his voice lacked conviction. He knew why. Because I want to watch him suffer. I adjusted the focus until I could see individual bricks on James's building. Want to document every crime, every violent act, every moment of his pathetic existence. When this is over and society rebuilds, I'm handing this footage to authorities and watching him burn. Good. Dad's voice was cold enough to freeze blood. That creature doesn't deserve to breathe the same air as you. Creature? He's not my son, not anymore. Dad's jaw clenched. A son protects his family. James used you, destroyed you, laughed while you died. He's not human. He's a monster wearing my DNA. And monsters need to be put down. I'd never heard such venom in his voice. The transformation from the soft-hearted man of Timeline 1 to this was complete. I'm glad you hate him, I admitted. In the first timeline, you defended him, made excuses, tried to see the good in him even when there wasn't any. In the first timeline, I was a fool. Dad stared at James's building on the monitor. I thought blood mattered, that being his father meant something. But I've learned, family isn't blood. Family is who keeps you alive, who protects you, who would die for you. He looked at me. You're my family, Zara, not him. You. My throat tightened unexpectedly. Even though I'm not actually your daughter? Even though you stole me? Especially because of that. His voice was rough with emotion. I stole you, yes. Worst thing I've ever done. But I also raised you, fed you, educated you, loved you. And you became the most important person in my existence. So yes, you're my daughter, the only one that matters. That's really fucked up, Dad. I know. And kind of beautiful in a twisted way. I know that too. We sat in comfortable silence, two people bound by crime and love and death. So, we watch him suffer, document everything, and when it's time, we end him. Together. Together. The second floor became our sanctuary. Dad insisted on separate bedrooms at opposite ends. You need privacy, space that is entirely yours. After everything I did, everything James did, you deserve boundaries. Each bedroom got soundproofing equal to the basement, military-grade acoustic isolation that made each room a completely private universe. You'll never hear me, I'll never hear you. If you have nightmares, if you need to scream, if you need to fall apart, you can do it in complete privacy. You've thought about this a lot. I've thought about nothing else since dying. He showed me the bedroom he'd designed for me. I want you to have space to heal, space to be yourself without worrying about my judgment or presence. The room was perfect. Real furniture. A comfortable queen bed with memory foam mattress and Egyptian cotton sheets. Bookshelves. A desk by the window. Reading lamps. Personal touches that showed he'd actually listened to what I liked across our years together. How did you know I wanted that specific lamp? I asked, pointing to a vintage reading light I'd admired in a store once. Because I pay attention. He smiled softly. I spent 18 years learning everything about you. What makes you happy, what comforts you, what you need to thrive. That's still creepy. Yes, but it's also love. My bedroom had its own bathroom, full shower, deep soaking tub, heated floors. Luxury that seemed absurd but would be essential for maintaining sanity. Dad's room was simpler but comfortable. Bed, desk, bookshelves, bathroom, no frills, just function. You could have given yourself more, I noted. I don't need more. I need you to be safe and comfortable. That's all that matters. The shared spaces got equal attention. A full kitchen with commercial appliances, gas range connected to our propane reserves, an espresso machine that made me actually tear up. Coffee is survival. Good coffee is living, I said, caressing the machine like a holy relic. I know. I remembered. A living area with comfortable furniture, good lighting, and plants that would thrive indoors. The meditation room with no surveillance, no weapons, no reminders of horror. This is where we remember we're human, Dad said. Where we exist as people, not just survivors. Standing in that room, feeling the soundproofing create a bubble of peace, I felt something I hadn't felt in 3 lifetimes. Hope. With 1 week left before my social media warnings came true, we did final checks. The basement livestock were thriving, chickens lay eggs daily, cows produce milk, animals are healthy and well-fed in their soundproofed paradise. Test the soundproofing again, I said. Dad went to the basement and made as much noise as possible. I stood at the building's exterior entrance. Nothing. Complete silence. We could host a rock concert down there and nobody would know, I confirmed. Food storage was complete and organized. Water tanks full, 20,000 gallons with triple redundancy filtration. Power systems tested and optimal. Solar panels charged batteries perfectly. Generator ready as backup. Security systems were perfect. Every camera angle covered. Recording equipment stores weeks of footage with automatic backup. But it was the James cameras that held my attention. He's getting worse, I observed, watching him stumble out of a drug house at 3 a.m. More erratic, more violent. Good. When the apocalypse hits, he'll be too compromised to think clearly. Dad's voice was ice. He'll make mistakes, and we'll be here watching him pay for every crime he's ever committed. You really hate him now? Should have hated him years ago. Should have stopped him the first time he hurt someone. But I was weak. Made excuses. Dad's reflection in the monitor screen looked haunted. He's my greatest failure, Zara. I created him by being absent, enabled him by never holding him accountable. And you? You paid the price for my cowardice. It's not your fault he's a monster. Isn't it? Dad turned to me. I'm his father. I saw the signs, the cruelty, the violence, the complete lack of empathy. And I did nothing, just threw money at problems and hoped they'd disappear. I'm complicit in every crime he committed because I could have stopped him and chose not to. Then this is your chance at redemption. No. His voice was flat. Final. There's no redemption for what I've done to you, to his victims, to everyone I've hurt through my failures. But there is justice, and I'm going to make sure James faces every ounce of it. The last days before the end. The news broke exactly as I remembered. Mysterious illness on cruise ship Corona del Mar. Passengers quarantined at Harborville Port. Officials assure the public that the situation is contained. James's social media exploded. His prediction post had gone viral. Thousands of shares. Comments split between people mocking him and people genuinely terrified he'd been right. Then the FBI showed up at his apartment. We watched on our cameras as 3 agents knocked on his door at 7 a.m. James Parker, FBI, we need to ask you some questions about your social media posts. What? Someone hacked my account. James was panicked, high-pitched. I never wrote that shit. The post came from your IP address, Mr. Parker, from your device, at times when you were documented to be home alone. I was high. I don't remember. This is bullshit. They questioned him for 3 hours, searched his apartment. He had his computer and phone confiscated. How did you know about the Corona del Mar? The lead agent demanded. I didn't. I don't. I never. Someone is framing me. He was sweating, shaking, his usual bravado completely gone. Who would frame you for predicting a disease outbreak that actually happened? I don't know. My sister, maybe. She hates me. Dad and I looked at each other and smiled. He's not wrong, I said. But he can't prove it. And even if he could, the FBI has bigger problems now than investigating his paranoid delusions. They left James with a warning. Stay available for questioning. Don't leave the city. Don't post anything else online. He's flagged now, Dad observed. Every agency is watching him. When this gets worse, and it will, he'll be suspect number 1. Perfect. 2 days out. My burner account warnings to the CDC got responses. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We are closely monitoring the situation at Harborville and working with local health officials to ensure public safety. While we take all potential health threats seriously, we ask that you refrain from spreading unverified information that could cause unnecessary panic. Translation: they're panicking but don't want to admit it, I said. The news coverage was increasing. More passengers are sick, medical staff infected, videos leaked online show erratic behavior, violence, and biting. The government is still calling it rabies, Dad noted. They have no idea what's coming. No one ever does. That's why we'll survive and they won't. We spent that day doing final checks of our fortress. Every system is tested one last time. Every supply counted and recorded. Every camera angle verified. Tomorrow, we seal the building, Dad said. No more outside contact. We become ghosts. Good. I'm tired of pretending to be normal. The city was beginning to panic. Grocery stores are mobbed. Gas stations are running dry. Fights are breaking out over supplies. People who'd mocked James's post were now frantically preparing. Too late. Far too late. We watched the chaos on our monitors, safe in our fortress, our supplies already secured. Do you feel anything? Dad asked quietly, watching them scramble. Satisfaction. I was surprised by how easily the word came. Satisfaction that we prepared, that we'll be safe, that we made the smart choices, while everyone else ignored the warnings. That's cold, Zara. That's survival, Dad, and you taught me that. Across timelines, you taught me that preparation beats optimism every time. He smiled grimly. I did, didn't I? We spent our last evening before lockdown having an elaborate dinner. Fresh steaks from our freezer. We'd bought premium meat, knowing we'd have power when everyone else didn't. Roasted vegetables from our supplies. Good wine. To surviving, Dad toasted. To thriving, I corrected. We're not just surviving, we're going to live better than we did before the world ended. To thriving, then. He clinked his glass against mine, and to destroying James. I'll drink to that. Day 0. The world ends again. The screaming started at dawn. I woke to the sound of sirens and chaos and knew, with perfect certainty, that it had begun. Dad was already awake, standing in the control room, watching the city tear itself apart on our monitors. Coffee's ready, he said, without looking away from the screens. And breakfast, fresh eggs from our chickens. I joined him, plate of scrambled eggs in hand, and watched the apocalypse unfold in high definition. The outbreak had gone exponential overnight. What had been isolated incidents in hospitals became citywide carnage. The virus moves faster than they thought, Dad observed clinically. Initial infection to full conversion in under 12 hours for most people, faster for some. On camera, we watched the progression. A man on the street corner doubled over, vomiting blood. His skin flushed red with fever. You could see it even on the grainy camera footage. He clawed at his eyes as they began to cloud, the whites turning crimson before that horrible milky gray spread across them. The fever is cooking his brain, I explained, sipping my coffee like I was narrating a nature documentary. 106, maybe 107 degrees. It's destroying his prefrontal cortex, hippocampus, and everything that makes him human. What's left is pure lizard brain. Hunt, feed, spread. The man's movements changed. Jerky, uncoordinated, like someone learning to walk in a body they didn't quite fit. He looked around. No, not looked, because his eyes didn't work anymore. He was sensing. Feeling for heat signatures, electromagnetic fields, and the subtle vibrations of living things. A woman walked past him. Normal, human, uninfected. The infected man's head snapped toward her with predatory precision. "Here we go," I murmured. He lunged. Not running. They don't run smoothly, not at first. It's more like controlled falling, momentum carrying them forward faster than any human should move. He tackled her. She screamed, high, terrified, the sound carrying even through our soundproofed walls. His teeth found her throat. See how he goes for major blood vessels? I pointed with my fork. The virus programs them to be efficient. Throat, inner thighs, wrists. Anywhere blood flows close to the surface. Maximum infection spread with minimal effort. Dad glanced at me. You sound disturbingly academic about this. I've watched people die this way twice. You get clinical or you go insane. I took another bite of eggs. Clinical is easier. The woman stopped screaming after 30 seconds. The infected man fed for another 2 minutes, then moved on, leaving her body in the street. She'll turn in 6 to 8 hours, I predicted. Then she'll get up and do the same thing to someone else. Exponential growth. That's why civilization falls in weeks, not months. More infected appeared on different cameras. The teenage girl in a school uniform, still clutching her backpack. The elderly man in pajamas, one slipper missing. The young mother with an infant carrier strapped to her chest, mercifully empty, thank God. They moved in groups, not packs. Loosely coordinated, drawn to the same stimuli, but not actually cooperating. More like sharks converging on blood in the water. There, Dad pointed, 5 of them surrounding that car. A man was trying to load supplies into his trunk, hadn't heard them coming, rookie mistake. The infected are quiet when they're hunting. They struck simultaneously. The teenage girl grabbed his arm with strength that should be impossible for her size. The elderly man grabbed his other arm. The mother went for his legs. The 2 businessmen in suits attacked from behind. The man didn't even have time to scream before teeth found flesh. I watched dispassionately as they tore him apart. Watched blood spray across his car windows. Watched him stop struggling as shock set in. And watched the infected feed with mechanical efficiency, wasting nothing. That was faster than the first one, Dad noted. They're learning. The virus is adapting to each host, becoming more efficient with each generation of infection. I finished my eggs. By week 2, they'll be genuinely scary. Faster, smarter, harder to avoid. But we're safe here. Completely. They can't smell us through the soundproofing and air filtration. Can't hear us, can't sense us at all. To them, this building is just another empty structure. We watched the chaos spread for hours, eating breakfast and lunch, commenting like sports announcers calling a game. Oh, that's going to end badly for him, I said, watching a man try to fight off 3 infected with a baseball bat. Blunt weapons don't work unless you're willing to pulp skulls, and most people can't commit to that level of violence. He managed to knock down 2 infected before the 3rd bit into his forearm. He dropped a bat, staring at the wound in horror. And he's done, Dad confirmed. 6 hours until conversion. By afternoon, the infected outnumbered the living in our immediate area. Hordes wandered the streets, drawn by sound and heat and the electromagnetic signatures of panicked hearts. Look, I pointed to one camera. The hospital. The facility was being overrun. Medical staff fled in all directions. Some made it, most didn't. Patients spilled out, some infected, some just terrified, all contributing to the chaos. Morrison Tech should be falling right about now, I noted, checking my watch. Dad pulled up a camera aimed at my old office building. Want to watch? God, no. I worked with those people for 3 years. I don't need to see them die. I paused, but keep recording. We might need evidence later. Evidence of what? That we tried to warn them. That they had chances to survive and didn't take them. That their deaths weren't our responsibility. I met his eyes. When society rebuilds and people start asking why we survived when others didn't, we'll need proof we weren't monsters. We are monsters, though. We're just monsters who prepared. Semantics. As the sun set on day 0, the city was unrecognizable. Fires burned unchecked, sirens wailed constantly, gunshots echoed, military units trying to establish control, civilians defending their homes, survivors fighting for resources. And the infected. Everywhere, the infected. Welcome to the apocalypse, I said, raising my wine glass. Population, us, and everyone too stupid to die. Dad clinked his glass against mine. To being the smartest people in hell. To being comfortable while hell freezes over. We sat in our control room, watching the world end in high definition while eating a dinner that would make pre-apocalypse restaurants jealous. Fresh eggs from our basement chickens, vegetables from our supplies, wine from our collection. Outside, people screamed and died. Inside, we were warm, fed, safe. Do you feel guilty? Dad asked quietly, staring at the monitors. I thought about it. Really thought about it. No, I said finally. I feel satisfied. We prepared. We planned. We made smart choices while everyone else ignored the warnings. I took another sip of wine. Their suffering isn't our responsibility. Their deaths aren't our fault. That's cold, Zara. That's survival, Dad, and you taught me that. Across timelines, you taught me that preparation beats optimism every time. He was quiet for a long moment, watching a family get torn apart on camera 3. What about James? I pulled up his cameras. There he was, my dear brother, covered in blood that wasn't his own, laughing as he looted a pharmacy while infected devoured someone in the background. What about him? He's surviving. Thriving, even. He's doing exactly what he always wanted. Hurting people without consequences. For now. I zoomed in on James's face, capturing perfect footage of him executing someone over a box of bandages. But we have cameras, we have time, and we have something he'll never have. What's that? Patience. I smiled, cold and sharp. He thinks he's won, thinks the apocalypse is his playground. But we're going to watch him. Document every crime, every murder, every moment of violence. I opened a new folder on my computer. James Parker, Evidence Compilation. And when the time is right, when society starts rebuilding, when people start demanding justice again, we're going to hand him over to authorities with so much evidence they'll have no choice but to execute him. Dad stared at the empty folder, then at me, then at the monitors showing James laughing over a corpse. How long will that take? Months, maybe a year, I shrugged. But we have supplies for decades. We have safety. We have comfort. We can afford to wait. And what do we do until then? We live. I gestured around our fortress. We eat fresh eggs every morning. We tend our garden. We read books and listen to jazz and remember what it means to be human. And every single day, we watch James destroy himself, one crime at a time. You've thought about this a lot. I've died twice thinking about it. I met his eyes. This timeline, this is where I finally win, where we both win, where James finally pays for everything he's done. Dad stared at the empty folder, then at me, then at the monitors showing James laughing over a corpse. Something shifted in his expression, something cold and determined and absolutely final. I'm with you, he said. Whatever it takes, however long it takes. I failed you in the first timeline, failed to protect you from him, failed to stop him when I had the chance. His voice went hard. Never again. Never again, I agreed. We clinked glasses one more time. On the monitors, James disappeared into the night, completely unaware that his sister was alive, thriving, and building the case that would end him. He has no idea, does he? None, I smiled. He thinks I'm dead, thinks he got away with everything, thinks the apocalypse means no more rules, no more consequences. But he's wrong. He's so fucking wrong. I started a new document, Day 1, Evidence Log. Because we're going to survive this apocalypse, we're going to thrive through it, and when it's over, I typed the first entry. Day 1, 7:43 p.m. Subject, James Parker, observed executing unarmed survivor over medical supplies. Murder captured on camera 7. No hesitation, no remorse. Subject smiled during and after the act. I looked at Dad. And when it's over, we're going to make sure he faces justice for every crime, every murder, every act of violence, everything. That's a lot of documentation. I've got nothing but time. I pulled up all 4 James cameras on screen, recording simultaneously. And I've got rage that's been building for 3 lifetimes. I can be patient. Dad leaned back in his chair watching the cameras with me. Outside, the apocalypse raged. Inside, we sat in comfortable silence, documenting the crimes of a monster who thought he'd finally found his paradise. Zara, Dad said. Yeah? Thank you. For what? For giving me a chance to do this right, to protect you, to stop him, to be the father I should have been from the start. His voice cracked slightly. You're still a bastard who kidnapped me. I know. But you're my bastard. I reached over and squeezed his hand briefly. And we're going to survive this together, and then we're going to destroy him together. Together, he agreed. The cameras kept recording. The city kept burning. James kept killing. And we sat in our invisible fortress, warm and fed and safe, watching it all unfold with the patience of people who'd already died twice and refused to do it again. This was just the beginning. The real work, the documentation, the evidence gathering, the slow, methodical destruction of James Parker, that would take months. But we had time. We had supplies. We had rage. And most importantly, we had each other. Good night, Dad, I said, standing up and stretching. Big day tomorrow. We start the real documentation. Good night, Zara. He smiled. Genuine and warm despite everything. Sleep well. We're safe here. I walked to my soundproofed bedroom, closed the door, and for the first time in 3 lifetimes, I fell asleep without nightmares. Because this time, I wasn't the victim. This time, I was the hunter. And James Parker had no idea what was coming for him. Over the next 6 months, Zara and John would document 23 murders, 47 assaults, and countless acts of violence. They would live in comfort while the world burned. They would thrive while James destroyed. They would eat fresh eggs every morning and drink good coffee and tend their garden while watching their enemy dig their own grave one crime at a time. And they would wait, because justice doesn't rush. Justice is patient. And justice was coming. To be continued.